podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Ed, we are back to transatlantic situations.
We are.
You're back on the other side of the world.
I mean, the funny thing was, it's much easier recording like this than when I was in the same country. In fact, same city and same room as you. So,
yeah, we probably should have recorded something when we were in the same room, because that's the first time we've been in the same room for a really long time.
It is.
It was very nice to see you, I have to say.
You too.
Yeah, so we had a little chat before we started recording, and we decided that we were going to talk about the football first before the transfers in big inverted commas, as if
Transfers of large sums of cash from one bank account to another. We'll be talking about that, won't we?
Seismic events in Manchester United in the last week. And lots of people are extremely happy about them. Just a quick spoiler warning. If you've tuned in for 45 minutes of celebration of United's transfer market activity, you've picked the wrong podcast, just so you know. But hey, we'll fall off that bridge when we get to it. We'll smack into that miserable pit of cognitive dissonance when we get to it. And talking of a miserable pit of cognitive dissonance, Manchester United 1, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0. Wolves games just bring out the worst in us.
I mean, I'd like to say it's Wolves, but let's be honest. I mean, for all the times we've had trouble against Wolves in recent times, it's been Wolves playing in a certain way and doing damage to us because Nuno had a game plan. This time it was because we decided to play with a 4-1-6 formation or something like that. I mean, there's too many players there. and thought that midfield was an unnecessary part of the tactical makeup of association football, which the last time that was true was about in 1895.
When they moved back the middle of the W to make the WM, from then on, midfield's been important, right?
Yes, that's right.
But United weren't a million miles away from a WM. It was more a sort of sideways L and then a W somewhere in there.
I did wonder what new signing Rafael Varane made his full debut for United. Oh, maybe he'd played in a friendly game. Anyway. Whatever. I did wonder what he might make of all of that. Because he was excellent, by the way, but he needed to be excellent because they had an absolute travesty of a midfield, which was Fred, because Pogba didn't bother doing any defending. As, 6 years into Pogba's career with United, we know he's not going to do any defending, folks. No surprise there, right? And Ollie must have known too. And so it was all on Fred, who puts up, when he's in a double pivot, good numbers of interceptions and ball recoveries and tackles all the kind of stuff. I think, what did it take, about a minute or so into the game before he was bypassed for the first time by Adama, and it just kept happening again and again and again.
I mean, how that game finished 1-0 to Manchester United. Well, there's two answers to that question. One is Champions League Varane, and the other is Europa League De Gea. And that's no slight on his abilities, just that he's wasted his entire career with us Muppets. And absolutely staggering, the second of the double save. I mean, I definitely fell down the rabbit hole of thinking, he's just hit it straight at him. But actually, the speed... the striker probably should have done better. The striker will probably be a little disappointed he made it savable, but it was only really savable by people who are sort of borderline superhuman.
Oh, sure. That was 2016 peak De Gea save. I couldn't help but thinking, sorry for being the cynic about Dave's magnificent double save, but I couldn't help but thinking, if he'd just come off his line, the 4 yards that it would have taken to catch that ball... probably under no pressure, he wouldn't have had to make that double save in the first place.
Well, no, but miraculous double saves have always been more of a strength of his.
That's true. And I can't be a hypocrite and give Paul Pogba a pass for not doing any defending, because Paul Pogba doesn't do any defending. and not kind of accept that at this stage we cannot expect Dave to come off his line. He was allergic. He was allergic to doing it in 2010. He's still allergic to doing it now.
There was one exception, though, where he came 40 yards out of his goal to stop a counter-attack. I was like, genuinely expected to see him walking back to the goal with blood pouring out of his nose. People joke about a nosebleed, but I actually legitimately thought, no, he might really get a nosebleed from doing this, but he obviously didn't. Varane was, like you said, Varane was amazing, and this is the kind of game where you're like, okay, well, if Victor Lindelof was playing alongside Harry Maguire, does that really, really finish 1-0 to United? Of course, we can't know, but it feels like you could chalk up, the how many points does a new transfer get you? I'm putting 2 points minimum in Varane's column for the points that we got in this game.
And look, I don't think any of the performance should surprise us, other than that, look, he's brand new to the league, and of course that can surprise players. But he's excellent in the air. He doesn't just take on the safe sideways pass at all. His distribution was good.
Got an assist.
Yeah, good recovery pace. He's all the things you'd expect. And United have pulled this off because he wanted a new challenge, and he was running down his contract, and it wouldn't have happened if he'd had 3 years left on his contract, let's be honest. But it's an excellent piece of business. It'll prove really, really useful for United, and we've got that sort of partner that we've been complaining about for so long, and I think it will help Maguire move to a new level, to have someone alongside him who's excellent in everything he does. So very solid base. Undermined by the fact that there was zero midfield, and it doesn't look like it's going to get fixed, unless we'll come on to transfers later, unless there's some incoming money, which it looks like Leeds are about to give us. So we'll see. Further forward, it was interesting. So we had James started. We'll talk about him more in a bit, and Mason Greenwood and Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes. And there was quite a lot of firepower on the bench because Cavani came on later, just after half time. So whatever way you shake it up, there's an awful lot of attacking options, and it felt very attacking, didn't it? As a base from which to go and take the game to Wolves, who of course lost their previous 2 games, but it didn't really kind of work out like that for most of the first half. Really, United weren't able to capitalise on it because they just had no control in midfield at all. And Wolves, through Adama in particular, were able to just break at will. Yeah,
the overall, the XG in this tells the story of the game, which is that Wolves created a ton of really good chances, and United didn't create, barely any. There's one Mason Greenwood chance early on which tips the scales, but the rest of it is and really that's one of those where if you I certainly wasn't expecting him to score that chance necessarily. It's Mason Greenwood, so you always expect him to score, but the way he was coming onto the ball, all that sort of thing. Varane, we talked about landing. I actually wondered for a second, I wonder whether having the new centre-back pairing is one of the reasons we look so chaotically disorganised. I was like, no. It's the midfield pairing, which is the reason we look chaotically disorganised. But the other new signing who started this game was Jadon Sancho, who has, it's fair to say, not even slightly hit the ground running. I'm not pulling any... No. I'm not making any statements about the future about this, but he's actually been pretty bad every time he's played so far, which is a tiny amount. It's
a tiny amount, and he's although he's had a couple of weeks training with United. I don't think he'd played a full 90 in any of the pre-season games, and Varane had the extra week with Real Madrid. So I think he's just a week behind. So there's we can say he had a bad game. He did. First 5 minutes or so, first time he got the ball, he ran at a couple of Wolves players and laid off a nice pass to Fred. And you're thinking, okay, good work there. This is what we get with him. He came inside a lot off the right or the left, mostly the left, but took up...
basically always.
But took up central positions all of the time. His positional map does not look like he's a touchline hugging winger, and we know that he's not going to be for United. But I'm not too worried about a bad performance. He's just not ready physically.
Yeah. Another performance which was bad and not worth worrying about was Marcelo Bielsa's inexplicable dream child, Dan James, who... it's interesting that he picked him. I suppose the decision was actually between James and Matic, given that McTominay was out, and it was really about, are we going to play... we kind of had... Matic was so appalling in the game before, you can see why he thought, well, Pogba in that position can't be worse than Matic was, because at least he'll make up for the immense deficiencies he has defensively with some spectacular long balls, and Pogba could easily have had an assist or two in this game. And by the way, that's not me unnecessarily defending him. He should never play in that position. Is certainly not with Fred as the only DM. That's a crazy system. We're going
to get to see this quite a bit because Matic is done, right? He cannot play in a game where he needs to defend. And so if one of Fred or McTominay are not available for any reason, it's going to be a horrendous mess. I mean, Donny is not going to play there for all the Twitter chat about, perhaps Donny could play there as a 6. He's done it for Ajax. He's not going to play there. He's seen as a reserve. I was going to say reserve for Fernandes, but there's about 6 other players that could play there first, I think. I don't know what he's seen as. So, yeah, United have 2 viable double pivot players, and neither of them are a proper defensive midfielder. And we just hope that together they put up the right kind of numbers. And it's just, it's shocking for all the good business United have done. Good business United have done this window. It's absolutely shocking they have not fixed this problem because, after all of that business, and we'll come into detail later in the pod, there's a lot of commentary along the lines of, well, now Ollie has to win a trophy to justify all of this spend. He's been backed again. And in a sense that is right, but there's such a massive deficiency in that position that I don't know how anyone could overcome that. I mean, what's Pep Guardiola's got 6 midfielders, and he plays them every week. We've got
give
none.
us one of them, Pep. You don't need all of them. We'll take literally any of them. And, by the way, you're saying we've got 2 viable players in a double pivot, and you are describing Fred and Scott McTominay as viable players in a double pivot, which, is very much, genuinely, it's a stretch, right? They've had good games and plenty of bad ones. And, of course, they're our best option. But that's the kind of, we're in a situation where if one of Fred or Scott McTominay go down, we're in big trouble. And Scott McTominay has gone down, right? He's had surgery.
He's got a groin problem. He's going to be out for a few weeks. Fred, £52 million. Fred, surely they typed those numbers backwards when they put the bid in and just never noticed it, and even then... Yeah, Fred's performance, and as I said, he does put up good numbers sometimes for some crucial stuff. Yeah. He presses, he's the trigger for a press often. He does do make ball recoveries and interceptions, tackles, stuff like that. He puts up some good numbers, but he's not a defensive player. He doesn't get into the right positions. He's bypassed too easily. But almost worse than any of that was the fact he gave the ball away. I think I'm right in saying 17 times in this game. And one of them was a very nicely laid off pass for Adama to burst through again, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka had to dive back on the line to save us.
Oh yeah, an amazing block from Wan-Bissaka. That one particular one in the first half, absolutely fantastic. It was a shambolic performance, but there is so much quality in attacking areas at United that, opposition fans, I love the Touchline Fracas podcast, and one of the things that opposition fans have started saying about us is that United are inevitable, like Thanos. United have become inevitable. It doesn't matter what you do, United will skank one somehow. And there's this profound truth in that. So we should mention... This is 28 games away from home unbeaten, more than anyone else in Premier League history. Maybe top flight? I don't know. I don't know whether that's a Premier League stat or a top flight stat.
I think it's a top flight stat. But
yeah, right. So it's the last time a run. We've just beaten a run that happened in 2001-2. Like, or there or thereabouts, like a long time ago. So this is an absolutely remarkable run, and it's been done. There's been some really impressive performances in that time, but United have gone behind however many times in that run. It's a huge number. I think 9 times in that run we've gone behind and come back, which is remarkable. This was a really good example of United being United are inevitable. It was that sort of goal.
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah. You said Skank, and I don't think that's it. I think it's, it's still true that there is no real discernible pattern of play in United's attacking build-up, right? It's just... And he doesn't coach it. Ollie does not coach a particular system and pattern of play. It is about United having 6 individually absolutely brilliant players, and one of them is going to come up with something most games, so
I don't think it's I think in the way that we said about Mourinho, he doesn't coach the final third. I don't think it's true that Ollie doesn't coach, that they're not having session. I mean, last season they didn't coach anything because there were no sessions for anything other than recovery and fitness. There just wasn't any time, and there literally was no time on the training pitch because they played twice a week all season and had to do the recoveries in between. So I think there is some aspect of like very clever movement, and maybe the players have worked all this out themselves, but there are interrelationships between the attacking pieces of the puzzle that work and that look sort of similar, whoever the personnel are, and maybe you could say that's the collection of personnel. When I say Skank, I mean like this one was often it's been a penalty that's restarted it, and a lot of those have been entirely justified, but also it was a weird season where the rules of penalties, they've literally said, maybe we shouldn't give a penalty for everything this season. But anyway, this one, Greenwood, I mean, you put in the group chat that Greenwood's XG on his goals this season is 0.08, 0.1 and 0.06. And I'm like, yeah, but really it's Mason Greenwood, so it was 1, 1 and 1. I'm not sure this one was quite on target until it was punched into the net by the I was going to say Wolves keeper.
He may be a little disappointed with that one.
Yes, I'm thinking might be a bit disappointed that he punched the ball. David De Gea at the other end making spectacular double saves to get United an undeserved clean sheet, and this lad making sure that Wolves don't get a clean sheet they probably deserved.
Unfortunate. Mason takes it really early, as he does, and hits it low. So, he's done at least part of the work there. But yeah, a little bit fortunate. The other big talking point about the goal, of course, was just how much Wolves made of the air blowing past Ruben Neves' shin as Paul Pogba completely missed ball and man. And then he took about 3 seconds, looked at the ref, and then fell over. What was going on there, Paul? What exactly was going on there?
Quite remarkable. It was very confusing. It's like, there's cameras, right? Like, you're trying to con the ref to get him to blow up to stop the action before it progresses, I guess, right? That's the only thing that you could say about that. But yeah, very, very, very strange. I thought Mike Dean was an absolutely perfect day for Mike Dean because he was surrounded by United players as he was going off for the first half, and then surrounded by Wolves players at the end of the game. Both times, absolutely bang smack where he wants to be, which is in the centre of attention. And main event Mike Dean. I thought he had a horrible game. Horrible. And that was obviously a good decision, but there were some very strange ones in the first half, I thought. You could see why Bruno was furious.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, yeah. I mean, he got booked, didn't he, in the end for... Did he get booked for being a bit lippy?
Too furious. Although, to be fair, I do believe, having read it, I'm pretty sure that when Mike Dean was talking to Harry Maguire, he said, "I'm the ref," which I think is fair enough when you're dealing with Bruno, because it's like, Bruno, you're not the ref. You can disagree, but you aren't actually the ref. You don't get to decide what the decision is.
Well, that's right. And whether it's Mike Dean or any other ref, it's far and few between when you're moaning at the ref that they go, "Oh, you know what, Bruno? You're absolutely right, fella. Yeah, I'm changing my mind here. And in fact, you have the cards." So, hey, and Mike Dean's just never going to do that. I I don't know how many hundreds of games Mike Dean has refed at Premier League level, but you're right. He likes the centre of attention. He's pretty inconsistent as a referee, as many of them are, but I think he, for a supposedly, top level ref, it feels pretty bad from him. And he's fairly card happy and you're looking for something to happen. But the fact that he said no foul on that one, and that's the only thing any one of the pundits from any media outlet wanted to talk about afterwards, was kind of amusing.
It's so weird. I mean, it's because it's Pogba, isn't it? Like, literally, it's because it's Pogba. That's why there was conversation about it. I don't think there would have been a great deal of conversation about
Graham
it.
Souness called it a leg
him.
breaker, which I mean, I have to say, if Paul Pogba has become a Jedi and he's able to break the guy's leg without being anywhere near him, amazing. A leg breaker. Graham Souness.
It's a problem. It is a problem. I have to say, watching this game, at no point did I think, you know what United really need in this game? Segue time. What United really need in this game, where they're defensively chaotic and coughing up chance after chance after chance and aren't really getting any service whatsoever to a centre-forward who is actually really mobile. What they need is a 36-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo up front. And yet, so since we last met, ladies and dear listener, since we last met, I don't even know how much City chat there was by that point. There might have been some. And maybe that was the day that he was going to City, but that did not last very long, because it turns out he just ruddy loves the ruddy Reds, and Alex Ferguson and Rio Ferdinand combined to convince him that his heart was indeed in the Red of Manchester.
That's it. And £480,000 a week. It just
he'd have got that at City.
He'd have got that at City anyway. So yes, he's going to earn the money anywhere. Yeah. Yes. Apparently, United can move quickly to conclude transfers when they feel the need to do it. Although it does frequently seem to be when it's to beat City to a player, that they're suddenly able to make a decision in less than 10 weeks.
I think there are many justifiable criticisms of this transfer, some of which we will talk about in a minute. The one thing I don't think you can say is that you can compare it to other transfers, because, to be fair, the commercials of this transfer are absolutely unique. Sorry to bring him up already in a conversation about Ronaldo because it's contractually obliged. The only other player with anywhere near the same kind of commercial impact would be Messi, and probably Ronaldo's commercial impact is greater. I don't know who has more Instagram followers, but I think Cristiano Ronaldo might be the most followed person on Instagram in the world. He's right up there anyway. So there is a unique level of brand appeal and financial benefit to the club.
Potentially. Yeah. That takes a while to work its way through because, of course, we've just signed a new shirt sponsor, which is for the next 5-6 years, and there's a lengthy contract with Nike in place still. So actually the tangible... Adidas, sorry. The tangible benefits commercially, I'm not sure they're that big, and I think it's something like 7 or 8% or something, the percentage of shirt sales, if there's an increase, which, let's pretend there is for a while. So it's very hard to make. It's very hard to make the numbers work from a purely commercial perspective. I mean, it's not true that, for example, that PSG, Messi will pay for himself has been the line, right? It's nonsense. And unless a bunch of Q-related sponsors, that's Q for Qatar, not Q the conspiracy theory. Although, hey, maybe they're sponsoring football clubs these days. You never know. Unless a bunch of Q-related sponsors come up with new numbers. And for United, it's even more difficult because, of course, there aren't any related parties to magically come up with those numbers. So I don't think it pays for itself. But, that's not what United should exist for. We should be making money in order to put it on the pitch. That's not always the case with the Glazers, of course. He scored 30-something goals last season. He's still going to score goals in the Premier League. The impact on his teammates seems to have been fairly significant already. People are buzzing for it. And it will change the nature of United's build-up play because, it's undoubtedly true that Cristiano as a 9, which is the only place he can play, still has elite numbers, if slightly declining from their very peak, but still elite for a forward. What he's not going to do is he's in single digits percentiles for any defensive contribution whatsoever, right? So nothing. He's not going to be the trigger for a press, so it will impact how United play in some ways when he plays.
0.76 non-penalty expected goals per 90 last season. I mean, those are best in the world numbers, right? That's the level of player he is. So I've had a not particularly enjoyable week football wise. Done a lot of thinking and working out and all that kind of stuff. So tune out now if you don't want to hear anything that's not directly about football. Fair enough. The reality of Cristiano Ronaldo's public image is that it, has completely survived very serious allegations. I reread the Der Spiegel investigation. It's a horrible read.
Yeah.
And there's two possibilities. One of them is that Der Spiegel were completely duped by the leaked documents, and the other is that Cristiano Ronaldo did really bad stuff, right? These are the two possibilities.
Well, no, there's some nuance around there. So one is Der Spiegel were duped by documents which were not true or something like that. Or the other is Cristiano did some really bad criminal stuff and then paid somebody off. And the other one is he didn't do any really bad stuff and paid someone off anyway just to get rid of it. I mean, so...
Yeah, although what I'm saying is if the documents that are purported to in that article are legitimate documents, there's not really very much doubt, right? That's the nature of those documents. And, I've mentioned this on Instagram, and I have to say the overwhelming, our Instagram audience is a particularly self-selecting group of the people that enjoy our work. Because, that's it's a small percent of, of the audience, and lovely. The vast majority of responses were pleased that we'd mentioned it, slightly dispirited that it hadn't got broader mention, slightly dispirited by the kind of United, the world of United people online, United-y type people online hadn't got much of a mention, and no coverage at all in the mainstream.
None at all. In fact, the only person who has a mainstream audience, if this is the right way of putting it, that I've heard mentioned it is Dan Harris, who has on occasion written for The Guardian and other outlets, and he went on the Ball podcast, the Irish podcast, to talk about both Ronaldo's football impact and his legacy as a human. And I thought he was, if you haven't, we'll say some very similar things basically, but if you haven't listened to that, it's worth a listen as well, about that. And elsewhere, no commentary on this at all. And you started this segment by saying his reputation has completely survived it. Yeah, more than that. If you look at United's away support at Wolves yesterday, not only was there a cutout, but a significant amount of time was spent singing Viva Ronaldo. People are delighted by this transfer, and there is no cognitive dissonance because people are just not engaging with the reality that Ronaldo may well have, alleged, again, just, before Ronaldo's lawyers get in contact, is alleged to have...
This is not about our opinion. This is about the reporting.
Exactly.
Right? This is about the Der Spiegel piece.
Right, and we haven't mentioned it. He is alleged to have raped a woman in 2009 and then paid her to keep quiet. It's in Las Vegas hotel, right? It's all out there. You can go read it. He would have spent, not only his reputation would have been destroyed by that, but he might have spent the best part of the last decade in a prison cell if he hadn't paid that off and if the criminal investigation had led to a conviction. Ifs.
That second one's a pretty significant if, isn't it? One of the things that one of the things that I was going to say a second ago was that when I was talking about the response from our audience, is just had one message saying, yeah, but what about the fact that he was found not guilty? It's like, well, that's absolutely nowhere close to the truth of what happened. That there were no criminal proceedings because it was impossible to conduct any, because this had happened in 2009. I don't know if it was a couple of years ago, maybe 2018, when this was all coming to light. And the I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to imagine it'd be pretty difficult to enter into a court case documents that were available because of a public leak that would have breached lawyer-client confidentiality. I'm not sure you can, even if it is in the public domain, I'm not sure you can. But I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not a lawman. But it sounds anyway. The whole point being the case wasn't prosecutable, which is nowhere near the same as it was found not to have happened. Of course, it's possible that it didn't happen, but that's the two aren't the same. Anyway,
yes, and we can look, and you know, of course, I can, and many people will have said this and will say this, that he is innocent until proven guilty. It's just bloody damning. Go read it. It's a brutal read. You know, trigger warning if you have been abused, you might not want to read that. It's very specific and very detailed, and within that, there are some extremely damning words from Cristiano himself, if the documents purporting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's our backs covered. The thing I wanted to talk about is what we do about this, right? Because we're not going to talk about this every time he scores a goal. We're not going to talk about this every game for the rest of the season, because there isn't a new conversation to be had every time. I certainly don't want to be making flippant remarks about it, because I don't believe any of this deserves... I genuinely don't think there's a place for humour in the discussion of this, because it's just not funny. And so there's a kind of necessary compartmentalisation, but I'm not talking about the compartmentalisation of just wildly cheering every goal and dissociating from the reality of that. I've never really cared for, he's never been my guy, Cristiano, you know, like, I don't think it would shock people that have been listening to this show for a long time to imagine that. I don't think I would like to be friends with Cristiano Ronaldo personality wise. Like loads of people say, you know, he's a great guy behind the scenes or whatever, and that's all well and good. But you know, he's always been the kind of a bit preening and a bit egotistical seeming for my tastes. So there's all of that. But this just makes it just like, this isn't a guy I can get behind. This isn't a guy whose triumphs I can easily celebrate. Of course, they're our triumphs now as a club, because I do expect United's season will be better on the pitch than it would have been if they hadn't signed Ronaldo. That's self-evident. This is one of the best ever to do it. He's coming to the end of his career. There are issues around mobility up front or whatever, but he's still going to... I mean, who in our team, if you want United to win a game, do you want a chance to fall to? Well, the answer's just changed from Mason Greenwood to Cristiano Ronaldo. And much as I think Mason Greenwood's ceiling is extraordinarily high, obviously Ronaldo is the answer to that question. So
yes,
it's going to be a rough season, I think, in that way for me. I'm only talking personally, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, should we just call him cognitive dissonance's Ronaldo from now on, and it'll just shortcut the previous 15 minutes of conversation? Yeah.
But that's the thing. I don't.
You've not even got any cognitive dissonance. You're just it's just the negative. Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, and more than that, like that's kind of what I mean about, like, I don't even want to be flippant about it. I don't want to be flip about it, because it feels disrespectful on a whole number of levels. I can tell you what I'm going to do personally. I'm going to work on just not engaging with that, because I can't do anything about it. You know, terrible things happen in the world all the time. We have a small platform, which I think there'll be some people who are furious about this conversation, but I'd say, like, the people that dig our show will be somewhat relieved to hear people have this conversation, and probably would be quite surprised if you and I hadn't. So we're going to have this conversation in this episode. It might come up again for one reason or another as the season goes on, but basically I'm going to be I guess, relatively dispassionately analysing the performances. That's going to be my Ronaldo take for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Okay. And then in terms of his impact, apart from the fact that he's going to score a bag load of goals, because assuming United can get the ball out of midfield into the final third of the pitch, he's going to score goals. Of course he will. And the impact on Mason Greenwood's an interesting one, because he started the season really well. I mean, he had a full pre-season, got over his injury that kept him out of the England squad, and whether he'd made the final squad or not, I don't know, but has had that pre-season, has come back, looking really fit and really sharp. And it's been electric, not just the goals. I mean, his running, his ability to...
It's so good.
Yeah, its movement's fantastic, into the channels, through the centre, whatever. If there are any doubts about whether he could play at number 9, there shouldn't be. He can definitely play at number 9. Although it was a bit odd that last week he got shifted, against Southampton, he got shifted out that central position, having been excellent on the opening day of the season, dumped on the right. And this week, of course, Paul Pogba's been excellent in 2 games off the left, was dumped into the middle. Different conversation. But anyway, the impact on Mason Greenwood is probably not positive. Maybe there's a net positive through being in the same squad as Ronaldo, in the way that it seems like he's built a good relationship with Edison Cavani. So hopefully he gets enough. Like, if it means he gets 20 games left this season, I'm not sure that's a good thing for Mason, but we'll see.
But I think it's extremely unlikely that Mason Greenwood gets 20 games fewer, because I think that he's the first choice front 3, Ronaldo, Greenwood, Sancho. Now, Cavani... It's an interesting one. I mean, I know he played out of position sometimes at PSG to accommodate various players. I mean, Cavani must be thinking, for God's sake, you bent over backwards to persuade me to sign another bloody contract in the middle of pandemic. I can't go and play for my national team. And now you've gone and bloody signed a number 9. Great. Cheers. Do you want the number 7 shirt, Ronnie?
Well, talking about that, it looks like that might happen.
Wow.
So I don't know whether this is true or not, but some people are saying that he may well take up Dan James's number 21 shirt, and Cristiano has the number 7. We'll see. Someone else did actually say that that's impossible, that you can't, once the squad numbers have been submitted to the Premier League, that they can't change after that, unless the player leaves. So unless they're actually going to bin off Cavani now, that may well not be true. But hey, whatever. Like, Cristiano's ego, it may well be fragile. I think anyone who's observed him over the years would suggest it may well be fragile, but I hope it can cope with not having the number 7 shirt, if that is the case.
To just completely disassociate for a second, I do think it cannot hurt a group of players, such young players, to be exposed to the realities of what it takes to make yourself the best in the world. So I don't, for me, like, this is a stupid discussion, but he's never been number 1 ever. It's always been Messi. That's fine. Like, even if you disregard that, Ronaldo's proximity to the conversation, the number of Ballon d'Ors won, the scale of achievement on the pitch. I mean, Ferguson said of him, talent's hard work's a talent too. And I'm not saying he's like, obviously he was blessed with abundant ability when he was a teenager, because we saw it was electric, the step overs, the dribbling, just the wonder touch. Sometimes he was an amazing player, but in order for him to do what he's done, he had to work in a way that other people don't have to work to get to the level they've got to. His work ethic is almost the singularly most important talent that he possesses. And that is actually something that can rub off on the people around you. So whether or not, he signed till the end of 23 seasons, 2 seasons. I can't imagine Mason Greenwood's going to look back on these 2 seasons and think, if only we hadn't signed Cristiano Ronaldo. I just think that's very unlikely. Who knows? But I just think it's unlikely.
Yeah, sure. two with an option for a third. So
right,
and Cristiano's talked about playing till he's 40. So we'll see. After we'll get a good sense in a few months' time. Just how much time Mason's playing on the bench, and of course,
it's not gonna. I just don't see it. Like, I'm not Rashford. I'd be really worried if I was Marcus Rashford about the amount of times on the bench. Mason Greenwood is so Mason Greenwood is inevitable. Mason Greenwood is inarguable. I love a ridiculous hyperbole, but probably not since Ronaldo have we seen a young player who's made our jaw drop like Mason Greenwood has. You know, he's a level of talent that just... And Solskjaer is not averse to that kind of play. I mean, there's maybe some stuff behind the scenes that we don't know about or whatever, but to me, Greenwood is still just going to play so much football, particularly with Dan James leaving.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything we have to say else about this? Is Dan James, do you think, definitely leaving or not? I mean, it's rumoured that Leeds put in a 25 to 30 million pound bid, which would be very good money, given that United signed him for about half that. So it's probably 25 in add-ons or something like that. It
seems like people are really confident that it's happening. So
yeah, and it should happen. I know there's a few dissenters who've said, are United going to miss? I think there are people who don't see him enough. Honestly, I mean the only thing that we'll miss from Dan James is the pressing, because we have plenty of others who can run into space. Greenwood, Sancho, Rashford, Martial if he's fit and or on it.
He was all right, actually. Having been absolutely awful against Southampton, I thought he looked quite bright against Wolves in the half an hour or whatever he got.
Yeah. And there's been a few people that suggested that maybe it was Martial that should have gone instead of Dan James. I mean, Martial's ceiling is obviously higher. It's not very consistent, but it's obviously higher than Dan James. And you just have to look at Dan James's performance yesterday and in the two other games this season and during the Euros and for the previous season before that to know that there's no progress here with him. You know, if you want someone to run into space and be the trigger for the press, excellent. If you want someone who's got any kind of quality on the ball whatsoever, he's not your man. And good luck to him. It's a good move for everyone, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I hope he does brilliant. I know it's Leeds or whatever, but I hope he does brilliantly. I hope Bielsa helps him loads. I think he's going to be great for Bielsa in loads of ways. I think that's good. And the fact that we've made a profit on this transfer is quite something, given, I wouldn't say over the last 2 years. I guess he's shown that he's not intimidated by the Premier League. He has scored some goals in that time, but I don't know quite why he's worth more money than he was then. I guess it's the nature of these things. Anyway, I wonder whether there's an argument to say Martial goes as well as Dan James, because you've got what are we talking? Juan Mata, remember Juan Mata? Bruno Fernandes, Paul Pogba, who has to be talked about as one of the attackers realistically.
Yeah.
Jadon Sancho, Ronaldo. I can't remember who I've said. I haven't. I don't know.
Cavani and Rashford. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Cavani and Rashford.
Yep.
It's a lot into three or four places.
Yeah.
4, I guess, because I included Fernandes. So that 7 goes into 4.
You didn't even count Donny van de Beek in that.
No, I did count Juan Mata though, so it's not actually 7. It's
Jesse Lingard, who is effectively the understudy to Bruno Fernandes, I think.
So that's now we're talking like let's just talk about the really, really, really kind of top level players out of that. Cavani, Rashford, Sancho, Martial, I'm giving him the benefit of being included in that group. He would want to see himself as, he wouldn't want to see himself as Jesse Lingard, would he, Martial? Or Mata, on that level. I can't remember if I've said it again. Anyway, it's a lot into not that many spaces. There's going to be good players on the bench every game, basically.
Well, that's right. And okay, so one of the other reasons I think United should probably take a fee for Jesse Lingard, whatever it is that there's lots of other players who can play in those attacking positions that we haven't even mentioned. So Hannibal Mejbri, who's a really excellent young player. will probably want some game time. And so will Anthony Elanga, and he hasn't gone on loan either, and he was excellent at the end of last season. So there's just a lot there, and United are unbalanced as a squad. And if you can take all that money and put it into a defensive midfielder, whoa!
Yeah. I mean, they've got it. The transfer window ends tomorrow, I guess. Maybe a day later because of the bank holiday. Who knows? I don't know. But soon, anyway. Next couple of days. I'm sure it's very tempting to be like, oh, we've got Ronaldo, that's it, no more business. But my goodness, the difference that it would make if they do sign a midfielder. I was going to ask you about the Ronaldo signing. We talked about the signings of Sancho and Varane in terms of points added and closing the gap. Do you think this is a substantial... Do you think we'll get loads more points this season because Ronaldo's signed?
United were the second top scorers in the Premier League last season. So, I mean, I suppose if you say you convert... And the top scorer was like... None of the strikers were close to it. So I suppose if you say there are chances on offer that United will now finish, they didn't before, and then there will be more points. Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at... seen if anyone's done that analysis, and I'm too lazy to go do it and think about the XG uplift that there will be from the signing. But I said, Smartest Scout would be able to do it. You'd be able to trawl through that. But for sure, I suppose yes. I don't know why. I mean, we haven't got fewer personnel, but we feel weaker in central midfield. I suppose that's because McTominay and Fred didn't miss any time last season. So if they could roll that into another signing, it would make such a big difference if it's a defensive midfielder signing. There's a lot of talk about Son Niguez. Atletico Madrid are trying to get rid of him. He's a high earner. They need to bring in some cash. He's not that pure defensive midfielder. For sure, he's an all-rounder who's played at 6 and has played at 8 and has played wide in his younger days. But I know United were interested in him many, many years ago. I think he was one of the ones that David Moyes didn't want, although the scouting department did. So, hey, good work, Moisey.
He was a player that I wrote a lot about in the Bleach Report days and Van Gaal times, and just right. Generally speaking, he was always someone we were linked to. And whenever I would be asked, I mean, this is why on earth anyone ever thought, oh, I know, we'll ask Paul to write this. Well, I can tell you why. It's because the content of what was written didn't matter at all to whether or not the article got clicked on. It was like, which five midfielders should United target? I would always have him on the list because he was one of the ones I'd heard of. But no, genuinely, like, he was a player that I was always, I always thought would be a fantastic fit for United. So it'd be, I'd be excited by that transfer. But to be honest, I would be excited by any midfielder we signed. If you just told me Michael Carrick's coming out of retirement, I'd be pretty excited about that at this point.
Well, that's the thing. We keep using the word defensive midfielder, but there are two types. Right,
we've said this every time we've said this,
and the other type, the controlling type. You've got Michael Carrick as an assistant coach there, one of the greatest controlling midfielders of the last 15 years or so. You'd think he might have a little word.
Yeah, maybe so. So yeah, it's been a weird week, and most people have been delighted and super celebratory, and I totally get that. And there are genuinely lots of people who don't know about this story, which tells you a lot. But also there's people who don't care, and that's fine. Well, it's not fine, but it is what it is. And it's certainly not fine. It's incredibly sad, and a sad indictment on the nature of society. But so is so much of what happens in the world, and in football in particular. It's supporting United is for someone who politically and socially sits where I sit on the general spectrum of things, is probably a weird life choice anyway. So yet another impediment to...
Well, it probably wasn't when you first started, to be fair.
No. I mean, also... my social and political consciousness was not particularly formed by 1985, but we already had been on multiple CND marches by that point. So, it's kind of always going to end up where it ended up, wasn't it? So yeah, it's going to be a weird old season. I was going to start talking about a preview, but it's not until September the 11th.
Yeah, the international break, so...
That United play next.
It's I hate this international break. You just feel like you started the season and talking of broken records and saying things I've said over and over again.
Every season for 12 years.
Every season for 12 years I've said this one. It's the worst one, isn't it? No. This is the second worst one. What's the worst one?
The worst one is the next one that, like, you kind of get into the Premier League season a bit and then this international break happens. You go, okay, that's out the way now. And there's another one, like, before you know it, just rolls up straight on you.
So a bunch of players will go away. It doesn't look like Edison Cavani will go. I mean, maybe they've had a word to say. I mean, the Premier League has kind of taken a collective decision that anyone on a red list would not be allowed to go. FIFA does not take that. So FIFA is saying, no, they have to be released. In fact, they have to be released 2 days early to cope with any travel restrictions and stuff like that. Cavani, if he went, would miss 4 United games as a result. And I have to say, given how disrupted his season was last year by starting so late, and it started late again because United gave him extra time off to be back home in Uruguay after the Copa America, it would be... honestly, taking the piss if he did go, and I understand he's passionate about playing for Uruguay and would like to, but he goes away and he's then not available until October again. Hell, United are actually paying your wages.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
looks like he's not going, but a bunch of other players are. So for example, Villa are going to lose Martinez and Buendia for quite some time by the looks of it.
One of the things about Cavani, like, is now United are probably like, no, you can go if you want. Save Ollie a headache. Like, he's got to have a less complicated conversation. You might come back and find your shirt numbers changed, but hey, normally I don't like this international break. This time, I'm quite glad to have a week to do some work on myself, to do some letting go of the things that the serenity to accept the things you can't change, the wisdom to know the difference, all of that stuff. Like, it will do me good personally to just have some time to do some breathing exercises, let go of some negative energy that I don't particularly want to be carrying, that's about something that's nothing to do with me whatsoever. All of that good stuff. And then we'll be back after, weirdly, I mean, I bet the broadcasters must be absolutely fuming. United's next game is 3:00 on a Saturday. Imagine Sky Sports there's blood coming out their eyes as they cry tears of like, why didn't we put United Newcastle on the TV? Why?
I wonder if they're trying to look how they can change that one. Yeah,
yeah. I think they might not be able to.
No. It's too soon. It's too soon. They've picked that one. They decided not to pick that one. Probably because they assumed it would just be a nice, easy win for United. We'll be after that, back after that one to discuss it, all the stuff that goes along with it. And we talked.
Not worth a proper preview, but we are contractually obligated to guess what the score's going to be in United against Newcastle. It is Newcastle. I'm pretty sure
it is Newcastle, September the 11th. Yeah, I mean, should we be guessing how many our new signing will score?
It's going to be a lot, I reckon. What a lovely start. Brucey's friendly tune, roll into town. Steve Bruce's entire press conference pre-match is going to be, oh, isn't it lovely that they've signed United back to the top where they belong? Just it's pure United friendliness from Brucey before that one. I think that United are going to, they're going to absolutely spank them, to be honest.
I think so too. They got a good result this weekend, Newcastle did, didn't they, with Alan St. Maximin, friend of the pod. He's not friend of the pod. We're just very friendly towards him, so because he is one of the most fun players in the league. But they got a draw at home to Southampton, didn't they, with a late goal?
Good result
it was a good result because they were seconds away from losing.
Yes, we'll talk about that on the backers content. That was some VAR business at the end of that game.
We love a bit of VAR business, don't we? I didn't pick a score. I'm going to say 3-0 to United.
All right, 4-0. we'll see you after that. Have a nice international break. We might put some bonus stuff out during the international break, possibly depending on Tom's level of busyness or otherwise. But yeah, we'll be back with a proper podcast after that Newcastle game, and we'll just end by saying, "Come on, most of you Reds."
Bye now.
Bye.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.